Okay.
So we're live now, I think.
It's 10, 11, 12. Oh, we're live, yes. Hi,
Yeah.
hi everybody. It's Esther here, and I have Karalyn Brown with me over here. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Karalyn.
Hi, Esther.
What I'm going to do is just let you know that, first of all, this is our inaugural live stream for Speak More Clearly. So welcome. And we're so excited to have you here. Our topic today is a fantastic one, how to land your dream job. And we'll be discussing and, of course, giving you practical tips on how you can prepare for your job interviews, improve your job prospects, and shift your mindset to get the job of your dreams. Now, to this end, I have a very special guest with me, and that is Karalyn, other way, Karalyn Brown. I'm not used to this, guys. It's the inaugural one. So what I'd like to do is I've worked with Karalyn before, and she's fantastic. And what I'd like to do is introduce Karalyn first, let you know a bit about her, and then you'll see why I'm so excited that she's here with us today, because she has so much to contribute on this topic. So Karalyn is the founder of Interview IQ and has 15 years of experience helping hundreds of people find satisfying jobs, including helping many skilled migrants rapidly find their feet and overcome the barrier of no local experience, which is often tricky. Karalyn has headed up recruitment practices in the private sector and managed the recruiting team for a large New South Wales government utility. She's also sat on private and public sector interview panels as an independent and assessed as an expert in several assessment centres. Now, Karalyn has just launched the exciting Straight to Shortlist Challenge, and I'm sure in a little bit Karalyn will fill us in on what that is. It looks very good, which helps her clients ramp up their chances of successfully finding a job by learning how to network, and as a bonus, find jobs before they even get advertised. Now, how good is that? Her clients come from all over the world, but have one thing in common: they care about making a difference with their careers. So again, welcome, Karalyn. Fantastic to have you here.
Thanks. That's a real part of history of my career. It's wonderful to be here. And I think also, Esther, the work that you do with Speak More Clearly is so fantastic, because a lot of people really do struggle with, confidence around their communication skills, especially during, the job hunt, basically. That's a really big concern that a lot of people have. So, yeah, thank you for having me here today.
No, you're very welcome. It's great. Shall we start off? Can I ask you a question first, and we'll start off that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Hang on. I got my questions here. Let me just go to my first question. Okay. Oh, so if we're going, we'll hone in straight away, I think, because later I'll ask you about generally preparing for interviews. But what are the challenges that you feel that skilled migrants, having worked with hundreds and hundreds of people, that skilled migrants face in seeking work?
I think there's a few, and I liken it to many years ago. I went to London, English-speaking country, right? And still found it hard to just sort of find my feet. How do you use the tube? How do you post a letter? How do you all of those sorts of things. So just coming to a new country is a big, and wanting to settle here and work here is a big feat in itself. And I think we underestimate just that big shift into the world. So I think that's the first thing is sort of finding your feet. And then it is around then how do you navigate the employment system here? Is it more culturally acceptable to network? Is it, or do you apply online? Which are the big websites that you should use? What do recruiters do? Just the whole sort of job hunting systems, quite challenging. That's another big thing. And then it's also, and again, we underestimate this being here, is we know the employers here. You know, we know the big employers, the small employers, good employers, the bad employers,
Yes.
but you don't. Like, it's basically all unknown. And I think they're the initial challenges, as well as just really, you know, I think we underestimate your confidence is really fragile for most of us, and it can quickly take a battering as you come here, because you've got to, not only do you have the insecurity of no job, you've got to prove yourself and maintain, you know, your buoyancy and your confidence and at that time. So there's a heap of things that are going on that I think people underestimate.
Yeah, I agree. Having worked with a whole lot of, as you know, we work a lot with people who their second language is English, and even without the confidence battering of going from interview to interview and maybe, you know, not getting the job or whatever, there's the added thing of it not being understood sometimes. And that really, you know, a lot of people come to us to say, oh, look, I've got these fantastic skills and I work in this fantastic job. They've already got a job maybe. But I feel like I can't get ahead and I don't feel confident when I have, you know, because of my not being so clear. And because I don't feel confident about my ability to present or to run a meeting or to go to an interview, just like you know, and you have all the skills that you can provide for people with not just all of the who's the big company and who should you approach and how should you approach, but you also teach them the interview skills as well, don't you?
I do I do coach on interview skills. A big focus of mine is, you know, around sort of the developing resumes and the networking, but yeah, interview skills as well. And I think we underestimate, again, you know, we all speak English, but you know, often people are translating in their head, aren't they? Like, you're not thinking in English.
Yeah.
So you know, that becomes a barrier, having that real confidence that they're going to be able to handle that interview. And I guess what happens is, you know, pretty quickly you get told you need local experience. And, you know, and that's, and a lot of people just go away and accept that as a blanket statement without really, they're never really told what that means. And sometimes employers don't even know what that means. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
No, I agree. And so they're all the things, and we're going to come to some practical things that people can do in a little bit, but I thought we'd just sort of talk around what the difficulties are first. So, so let's start with that. So how do you think they can improve their chances of getting over the barrier of no local experience? What tips do you have for people on that sort of front?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, you got to understand what that means. We can pretty much say what that means in a lot of ways. I think what it means for a lot of employers is that they're concerned about A, communication skills, B, whether that person will fit into their team, how their skills translate to them, how hard it will be to train somebody up. So that's, I think, really the bucket of what no local experience might mean, as well as probably on occasions a level of sort of discrimination as well. But you know, that's the bucket. In terms of getting over it, it's not just one thing that people need to do. I think it's a few things. One is, I reckon, any good job, and I've seen this with my clients, any good job search starts with going back to the basics around you, right? So we're in a global world. So the role that you've done in India is probably going to be, as a professional, say, for example, is probably going to be quite similar to what you do in Australia, because quite often you might have global clients from there. So assume that you've got a good set of skills, but start to go back to the basics on yourself and go, what do I want? What do I really believe my strengths are? What are my motivations? What are my values? Come up with some examples of, you know, like achievement examples and stories as well, to really kind of work out the value that you'd like to deliver to the organisations that you're interested in. So that's kind of like the internal work.
Mhm.
Then, you know, I think the mistake a lot of people make, and particularly skilled migrants, is thinking that the only way to apply for a job is applying online. So, have a much bigger focus on networking your way to a job and doing as much as you can in terms of making connections with the local community and making professional connections as well to really help you feel confident around presenting yourself, because it's those connections which is where the jobs will come. Because when you're making those personal connections with people, you're breaking down those stereotypes. You know, you're presenting as a living, breathing human, and we hire on trust. So you're not a faceless resume. You're a person that has the right intention, the right attitude, you know, friendly and positive, and all of those things that we put under the bucket of local experience becomes less important. Basically, they start to look for ways that you could actually fit into a team.
Yeah, sounds
I think
great.
I've gone all over the place in that, but
no. But so what you were saying was that first of all, to have a look at themselves and let's assume they have the skills that are needed. Okay, get clear on what you want, where you want to be fitted into the job market. What do you want, type thing. And then secondly, start networking, not just online, but locally, physically, so people can meet you professionally and in the community. Maybe go join a group for something or whatever, and talk to people, even if you just talk to wherever shop or wherever you go. So people start to and say what you do. Then someone will go, oh, I know someone who needs whatever it is.
So many jobs.
And then they know, and they see you and they know you, and they break down that stereotype. Is that sort of where you were?
The general sort of idea around that. But what I work with my clients on doing is, particularly with the Straight to Shortlist Challenge, is setting up LinkedIn profiles, because, you know, love it or hate it, LinkedIn is where everybody is.
Yes.
And then start to be quite strategic around who you might pick to network with. So say, for example, I'll give you an example of one of my clients from, he had an international career. He's originally from India, then he moved to Singapore, and then he came to Australia. He's a business analyst. So he set up a LinkedIn profile, and then we started to seek out people who'd come down the same path as him. So who were business analysts from Singapore and from India, now working in Australia, and set up a LinkedIn profile and reached out to people like that, because they're in the market and can give you fantastic advice. You've got a great affinity with that kind of person because you've done exactly the same thing. You know, from those conversations around trying to understand the local market, because that was a premise of him reaching out. He would go and meet with people, and they sort of started to form a professional friendship, and he got job offers that way. So it's quite strategic or quite targeted in who you might actually meet.
And that's the beauty of working with someone like you, because you can go, no, hang on, this is a path, and give the exact practical advice. I just need to say, Asad, thank you for writing your comment in. What we might do is we'll just keep going a little bit, because we want to give people the information and the practical tips, and then I'll address your comment a little bit towards the end of our live stream. Okay, I thought I'd just let you know, Asad.
We knew. Okay. We know you're there.
Okay, that's great. It's interesting, this area, because when there's another element to this too, and that is to make sure, because if you're going to do all of this connecting, which I think is brilliant, you also need to make sure that you are actually understandable. And that's where our courses come in, our Speak More Clearly courses, so that nobody's saying people have to have an Australian accent or a British accent or an American accent, but being clear is the main thing. If you're not clear, then in fact, we've had people, to use an example from our end, who've had amazing skills, and they've gone for interviews and they've actually been told by the interview panel, and that's where confidence comes in too, great skills, but we feel you need to work on your communication because we can't understand you very well. And they've actually been told that. So part of, I think, for people who are coming from another country to an English-speaking country is making sure you're clear. A lot of people spend a really great amount of time learning to speak English, which they have to, but then they come and they go, oh, we didn't realise that we needed to concentrate on our clarity, how clear we are as well. Which is interesting. And there's the opposite as well, where people can't understand us. I've had a few people, and for that, they need to train on how to link things together, because we link things together. We go, put it on, or sit over there, and we're linking all these words together, and to them it's like, what are you saying? Yeah, like one word, yeah. And so there are different aspects to that as well. But that's really good advice about, and that example you just gave of how to use LinkedIn and how to help get advice from you, how to target what you need to do on LinkedIn and not just put your profile up there and go, okay, you know, that's really good practical. Yeah.
I think when there's such good tools around like what you do, in terms of like there's so many resources out there to help people, but particularly around that thing around communication. And I imagine a lot of what you do is around helping people with that confidence around that too.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yeah, and it ties quite nicely in with this, because the person that I was telling you about, when he came to me, I didn't really think I was going to be able to help him because he did have a thick accent. And I thought that I just thought that it might have been too tough for him to actually be sitting in front of people or organising meetings and things like that. But what did happen was, I think that people were a bit more, because he wasn't in an interview situation per se, he was more of a conversation, more of a learning experience for him. People were happy to have a chat. So it wasn't as much pressure on him to, respond in a more formal way to interview questions and things. Yeah. So I think, a combination of doing the work with you around being clear to people and gives people that confidence in communication, and then knowing that you don't actually have to go through and I call them like the horrors of the phone interviews and things like that.
Yes.
Because it's much easier when you're face to face and people are learning, people can like you, get to know you, like you and trust you much more that way as well. So it avoids those sort of trauma points in the
process.
process.
Yes. Yeah, and especially on the phone, because we use, if somebody isn't as clear as they could be, we use our eyes to do a bit of lip reading as well. There's no visual cue to help. And one of the things that we consistently talk about is using pausing and slowing down. Now, even if I answer the telephone, this is speak more clearly, how can I help you? I'm not going to go, this is speak more clearly, how can I help you? No one will understand me, Yeah. So it's that learning which register, which situation needs which type of speech rhythm or whatever. And especially we also work with people on presenting and standing and pausing and where to pause and how to stress the right words and all of that sort of thing as well, which is a bit different from just, can you say at or th or r or So that all comes into helping them be confident. You're right with that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think just going back to that point, we spoke about the community and getting out in the community,
Yes.
the more that you practice,
Yes.
and those in that kind of environment, I think the more rapidly you learn about, you know, communicating and where you're at and improving your skills, and at the same time you're making great contacts that might be able to give you some good knowledge about jobs that are available in the local market and that type of thing.
Yeah. And it also it improves their confidence because they're actually using and speaking to others, and others are understanding or reacting or, yeah, exactly. It's really important to speak to other people speaking English as well, not just speak to your own background language people. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the thing of getting out into the community. They're great tips. Okay, let me ask you another question. Okay, so I'm going to ask you two questions, but I don't know which one you want to answer first. Okay, so I'll tell you what they are. How to prepare for interviews. I mean, that's how long is a piece of string. I get that one. And then some mindset and motivation hacks, just a few to improve their chances of securing work. Yeah, so whichever you think, or they're probably a bit of both for this, you know, they sort of come together, those two questions. Yeah.
Well, I think with the preparation for interviews, I'm surprised that people don't prepare, right? It's like the way that I get people to prepare is that you're not going to be presenting everything that you've done to the interviewer. The interviewer is buying a certain set of skills that you have. So really focus on what you're going to be doing for that particular job to start off with. Try and look at, you know, the accountabilities that you have in the role, and then come up with examples using the STAR approach, which is like situation, task, action, and result, to give examples of where you've performed that task, for example. So you try and anticipate the questions that they might ask and come up with examples that show that you can perform that accountability. So the questions will generally be around what you're required to do for the role. So make sure you do that first. Understand the accountabilities, come up with examples to show that you can do that. So, and then the other thing I suggest to people is the more that you practice, and particularly if English is your second language, the better you'll become. And I'm not talking about rehearsing and memorizing your lines, but just being able to get somebody to ask you the question and get you to answer that, because that process makes you more confident. But as you speak things, you realize that it looks different from what you've written. It looks different from what's on your resume, but you're kind of embedding that story in your brain as well. And as you speak it out a few times, it becomes more clear about,
and more organized.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would do that. And, you know, of course, I'm going to say go and get an interview coach. But if you can't do that, make sure that you do practice with a friend who can give you some good feedback around that. I'd also, in that preparation, make sure that that's not all that you're doing, right? Because you can get yourself really wound up and really nervous if you're obsessing about that all the time. So make sure that you do something before the interview, like you've done that work, do something before the interview that lets your mind think about other things and gives you energy in a different way, because then you're going to carry that confidence and that energy into the interview. I think the worst thing that you can do before an interview is sit down and read your phone and concentrate downwards. It's like do the prep work, then go and do some energizing, confidence boosting, fun stuff and carry that mindset into the interview as well. Yeah.
I spoke with somebody recently on a podcast, and she said what she also used to say to herself was, these people are going to love me. They're going to think I'm fantastic. And she kept saying it over and over and over to herself. These people are going to love me. They're going to think I'm fantastic. They're going to think I'm just right for this job, whatever, you know, in this case, we're talking about getting the job, right? Or the promotion, whatever it is, you know, and she said, I just kept saying it over and over to myself.
Yeah. I love that, because it really does. People underestimate this kind of stuff, but it really does help if you can actually really picture yourself having a great conversation with someone and really actually, it sort of sounds really weird, but feel it, like feel in your body. And because that's the confidence that clears your head.
Yes.
I don't know the neuroscience behind it, but it does, that does work, that visualization that I'm really going to enjoy this conversation. And it is just a conversation in the end, because one of the big things that people are looking to do is to see how well they connect with you, which is, you know, them assessing you or your fit in the team. So that gives you that kind of, you're going in there with the right intention, you're carrying that confidence in there. And also today, I mean, there are a lot of skill shortages. So it's a great time to put yourself out there, basically, I think, because chances are you will get the job.
Yeah. And on that note about, you know, enjoying yourself, and it's a conversation, and, you know, are you personally going to fit in with the team, which is important in Australia? There are soft skills as well that people need to look at, not just, and I agree, I think they need to know what they want to say and do, exactly like you said, not learn it off road, etc. I think that's great. But learn the soft skills as well, because in this Australian society, it's still important to have politeness, because that's a thing that's expected of people in somewhere, you know. Other soft skills that, not just, oh, I'm great at this is what I can do type thing, but that shows that you can connect with the team as well, if you see what I mean, you know. Another soft skill, well, being understood, all right, we get that, but you know, greetings. Think of how you're going to greet people when you walk in. Smile. A lot of people are so nervous that they don't even smile. And smiling relaxes us, you know. I was working with a gentleman who's now got a very high position in a particular big company in the whole of Southeast Asia and the Pacific. And he's a really lovely, lovely man, and he fits into teams beautifully. But he wouldn't smile. He was so nervous. And it was like, you know, and that immediately makes people feel, the interviewers feel relaxed, etc. Yeah. So these soft skills are important, and often, especially from certain countries, people don't know that these are part of fitting into the team, being related to personally, if that makes sense. There was another one I was going to, politeness, intonation, attitude, all go with that. You know, do we feel, yes, we already know this person has the skills we need. Yes, we've talked about that. Do we feel personally with them, if that makes sense? What do you think of that?
All of those things, you know, and they are related to communication skills, but they're the things that sort of package up the communication, don't they? We are, you know, it's having empathy for other people. It's being polite. It's being respectful. It's smiling. It's having that firm handshake. And also, if I can add, is actually looking the part.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean wearing a tie, or, you know, it really does mean, because we are very visual creatures. So if we see you in a pilot's uniform, we believe that you're a pilot. It's funny, but, you know.
Yes.
But you've got to kind of embody the role that you want to be in, basically, you know, the profession that you want to be in. So if it is conservative, you dress conservative. If it is more casual, you can be more casual. But that's the first thing I think people is really, it's like, can I see you in this role? And if you don't look like a person, like look the part, then they're always second guessing what you're saying. You know, can I believe you? Can I believe you? Versus just putting that aside and focusing on, you know, the content of what you're doing. And it is around the energy that you exude. It's not,
Yes.
you know, is that the energy that's going to be the right energy in my team, basically.
Yeah. And that's partly how you walk in and you stand there with confidence. I know it's not it's a bit of a nerve-wracking situation, but they'll make that judgment. Like you said, the way you look and how you're standing, and if you're coming in smiling, if you're standing like, yes, you're going to love me. I mean, I'm not going to say that, but in your head, you know, that immediately makes them go, oh, this person could be the candidate for us. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Was there
A few
something else you wanted
comments
to? Yes, we've got a few comments. Yes. We've said that we'll get back to them. Let's talk a little bit more. Maybe we'll leave 15 minutes to get to the comments. Do you think that would work? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So you asked. Oh, sorry. You were.
I was going to say, was there something else you wanted to add to about?
Okay. Yeah. I was just picking up on that second part about the mindset, and I think, you know, that thing that your client was doing around, they're going to love me, they're going to love me. That kind of is really important to, you know, visualize yourself having a good interview. But also, I think, you know, when you look, just to go back to when you're actually looking for a job, I think people tend to get very hard on themselves when they feel when they feel down, and just to acknowledge that it is a roller coaster. So one minute you're on top of the world, and then you're not hearing back from someone, or you went for an interview and you didn't hear back. That can pretty quickly can go from up here to down there. And when people are down there, they really beat themselves up about, you know, being hopeless or never getting another job or giving up and that kind of thing. But to really acknowledge that it is a roller coaster, and make sure that you have things in your life that buoy you up, that you enjoy doing. You know, make sure that if you enjoy exercise, to get your exercise in. Keep social with people, because I think a lot of people sit behind their computer and never go out. And so as much as you can, get out amongst your friends, but also, you know, your professional network as well, because it does keep you current and thinking that you're, you know, that you're as good as anybody else that's working at the moment, basically. So you really do need to keep putting those things
to build, to keep your confidence. Yeah.
And then the other thing is that people give up. Like, they tend to, when they look for a job, they tend to stop at the rejection and then stop for a long time and then go back hard at it. And it's probably the worst thing that you can do, because you have to really gear yourself back up to the activity again. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So if you do it every day, you're keeping the momentum up that, you know, looking for a job is a full-time occupation while you don't have a job, with the, you know, the right amount of rest and stuff like that. But to keep at it, basically, not to give up and not to do it in bursts, because your confidence can plummet really quickly and you can stay there, basically.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's the same with the speech. If you do a bit every day, then you will notice after a month or two, oh, I'm clearer. I can say that now. I can say that word. Oh, and they didn't ask me to repeat that, you know. And we have our courses, but we also have coaches, and I do one-on-one coaching as well if people need. That it's the same thing. Yeah, you've got to just keep moving yourself so that you don't lose the momentum that you're talking about, or the momentum of the sort of making your new speech automatic in every day.
Because I think it is, I mean, it's a big goal, but it's the little steps and the little wins that keep you getting to the big goal. And if you think, because if you have this really high expectation that you're going to be perfect straight away, then any little back step, you know, stops you trying. And so I often get people to just keep track, but also keep a list and tick it off every day of the things that you've done. And you might have a bad day, but if you look at the entire week, you've got a whole lot accomplish towards the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a good idea. Yeah, yeah. And that mindset one is really important. Yeah, it's fantastic. Just keep a bit, yeah, and you'll get there. Yeah. Let me look at the time. We might just discuss a tiny bit more. I think I had another question. Let me find him. I think we might have already talked about this, but you might want to add something to it. We're always talking about networking, which we've already talked about a bit, and how to rapidly build your network. And I think this speaks to your new program, does it not? And turn the contacts into job opportunities.
Yeah.
If you just could speak to that a little bit, and then we'll start answering people's comments or questions.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the time when people arrive, in Australia, you get that advice, or you've got a network, but nobody really gives you that step-by-step process of how to actually do it. So you see a lot of people, putting a little bit up on LinkedIn or they say go volunteer, but they never really say how to join the dots to actually turn, like a meeting into something more. So I with my clients, we work on in the Stretch Shortlist challenges, get your LinkedIn profile up. It doesn't need to be perfect, just needs to be clear. And then start to use LinkedIn and Google to search out people, like I said before, somebody that's gone down your path. But also another great person or type of person to reach out to is a hub. And what I mean by a hub is somebody that has a lot of connections in your professional community. So, a hub could be somebody who's an organizer of a meetup group. It could be somebody who runs, podcasts and live streams. It could be somebody that runs a LinkedIn group. It's somebody that has connections in your professional community. And see if you can go and meet them, and simply for the act of saying why you find them interesting, and would it be possible to seek some advice from them about a specific question? It might be understanding the local market and where jobs might be, and try and get yourself in front of them. So it's sort of finding people that you have a real affinity with, that have come the path that you've come, and finding hubs, so people that are connected within your community. The act of asking somebody's advice is building that relationship, but that conversation generally turns to, what are you looking to do? And then you can simply talk about, well, I'm that project manager from Indonesia, and I'm looking to get a job, as a project manager. And quite often people will start to look and help you. And because what happens is in organizations, when people are hiring, the question is always put amongst existing employees, do you know someone? So what you're actually doing is putting yourself on the radar of people that are going to get asked that question. Yeah. And then the other thing I'd suggest is, like, the guy that I mentioned earlier, he went and met up with leaders of, like, organizers of meetup groups, and volunteered to help them. And that person that he met was a hub, and started to introduce him to all of the recruiters that he knew, because the recruiters were coming to that meetup group to find people. So, from knowing one person, they know 10, 20, 30, 40 potential people. And I've seen that happen time and time again. It's been quite remarkable that, particularly if that person, like I said, has come from, or has some understanding of where you're coming from, and is somebody that, the hub type person is a person that likes to be in the know and pay it forward and connect people, and
they feel that's what they do. They have to. Yeah.
So there's that saying which I really love. It's like, seek a job and you'll get advice. Seek advice and you'll get a job, and it just kind of happens that way. Yes. And from there, that's when you start to hear about the things that are advertised, or things that are about to be advertised, or, more introductions and so forth.
Yeah. And I love that idea. You just go and find a specific question. Don't just go and say, can you help me get a job? No. I need advice about this. Yeah. And then you start that conversation and it moves through. Yeah.
Can I just say something on that? Because it is a mistake that people make. Like, people will say yes if it sounds so basic, but if they know what you want, like if they believe that you've selected them specifically and they know that they can answer your question and they have time, like, you know, so they don't even have to understand the value of networking, but you have to, in your message to them, make those things really clear. And I think people forget those things. It's like, put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're going to ask.
Yeah.
If somebody said to you, Esther, I really love the work that you're doing with Speak More Clearly, and that you've developed this fantastic online course, and I'm really interested in learning more, a little bit more about how you did that, you'd probably say yes, versus Esther, can I come and meet with you? You know,
yes, yeah, interesting. Yeah. And just for people quickly who may or may not know about meetup groups, that's you look, how do you find those? How do people find them?
Just Google Meetup, and then Meetup is like a search engine. It'll have you can put some keywords in and different meetups will come up. Same with
meetup.com.
Yeah, meetup.com. Yeah.
Okay, we will put the links to your website and the hang on, I will find it. Your new thing, the what's it called?
Challenge?
The shortlist. Yes, shortlist, straight to the shortlist challenge. Yeah.
Yep.
Underneath this live stream, but also very, you want to let people know what your two web, or how to get there. What is your website? And it's on there. So,
yeah. So my website is interviewiq.com.au, but also I've got we're streaming via YouTube as well, aren't we, on this?
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Cool. So it's probably easier to hop over to my YouTube channel, which has heaps of videos on interviews and resumes and LinkedIn and the Straight to Shortlist Challenge, and that's called Career Care Package. So that's probably the easiest place to find me, and then other contact details are on there as well. So
Career Care Package on YouTube. Okay. Excellent. Fantastic. Shall we address, and just before that, if people want to have a look at the type of training lessons we have, there are free training lessons, but obviously more detailed information about how to speak more clearly, etc., in our courses on our YouTube channel, which is speakmoreclearly.com as well. Okay. So let's go quickly. Asad, I think I think Storm has already answered your question, hopefully. Pronunciation, a lot of people feel low confidence when they're not clear, I agree. And but we do have the courses, and Storm has put that information in a reply from Speak More Clearly here for anybody who does need to have a look at learning how to speak more clearly using our courses or our coaching, and our website is there. So anybody who would like to have a look at that, please go and have a look, and you can get more information on that. Hi, Cairo. Hi, Poe. Samira says, hi, I would like to improve my English to get a promotion in my job in meeting. I don't have confidence to talk because all my colleagues are native English speakers. That's tricky. I need to expand my vocabulary. Okay. First of all, what I would suggest there is, whatever your topic of your profession is, learn the vocabulary for that more, and especially the idioms, the things that people say a lot. Listen to the colleagues, write down a phrase that is used often, or the tech terms, or whatever the profession is. But I can understand that it's tricky when everybody is a native English speaker, and they probably speak quickly. Vocabulary expanding, reading. Reading is a big way, reading in English You don't have to start with, high-level books. You can just start with novels. Whenever you come to a word you don't know, look it up. Or if it's an idiom, look it up on Google. We do have some one-on-one classes if you're interested with English as second language teachers, if you need to improve your English that way with vocabulary. And that's on our website as well. Anything you want to add to that, Karalyn?
Yeah, I totally agree. We underestimate the power of reading, but also a lot of people take around a notepad and just write down the word that they don't understand and go and look it up. But as much as possible, be quite disciplined about immersing yourself in that environment as well.
Yeah. And listening, because a lot of people don't do active. I'm not saying you, Samira, but a lot of people don't do active listening. They go, "Oh, I haven't got the vocabulary." Sorry, I was going to shorten that word, vocabulary. But listening to the colleagues, like really actively listening and go, "Oh, that's how they say that thing," and as you said, Karalyn, write that down. And then go home and put it on a Post-it note on your mirror in the bathroom. Every time you go to the bathroom, you make a sentence with that phrase or whatever it is. Yeah. So that's a way to build. I know it takes time, but if you do that and you read quite a bit and look up words in the dictionary on Google, wherever, you'll find that moves more quickly. Okay. Thank you, Knowledge Strength. I'm glad you think it's excellent. We'll get to you. Oh, that's okay. Cynthia, hi, I am Cynthia from Indonesia. I love this topic discussion. It's really helping me on sharing this subject to my students. I'm really glad. And there's more specifically on jobs, etc., on Karalyn's YouTube channel as well. What is it called again?
Career Care Package.
Career Care Package. Great. Yep. And hi, Naresh. Great that you're all listening in, and I hope you are getting lots of good information. Okay, I don't think there are any more at the moment, so shall we just add some more tips for people? Let me think. What else would you like to add that you feel is a practical thing? Because we've covered, how you present and learning what you have to say, organising it. We've had people who their skills are amazing, but when they go to talk casually, which sometimes you have to in an interview, so they say, "Oh, was it hard to get here today?" Or "Tell us a bit about, where you grew up." Or, I mean, yes, they'll ask you specific questions about, and you have to have prepared, like you said, these particular situations and how you can help the company rather than the other way around. But also practicing organising those little chit-chat things, which sometimes people find difficult. How do you find that, Karalyn?
I think that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because you never know what people are going to ask you, and often it's like that icebreaker thing, like you won't go up and lift and it's like, "Did you have any trouble getting here?" Or "The weather's really terrible." Well, I think one of those things is really, again, I would suggest the more that you can socialise in an ordinary situation, the more confident you get with that. But really, I think use that as the opportunity to kind of be yourself as well. So really quite, again, to your point about us not being great listeners, I think our nerves kind of shut down our capacity to listen. So just really focus on understanding what the other person is saying so you can respond appropriately to that. I think they're kind of like the icebreaker things, but I think really as much as you can, getting out and chatting to people, getting out and talking to people is going to give you a confidence in that normal everyday chit chat, because you can't really script it. No. And again, that kind of like put yourself in a confident mood or do something you love before you go in means that you're not in that kind of blinkered down, brain's not
scared, anxious,
here in a spotlight. Because I think those sorts of questions, they might seem innocent, but they are still part of the interview. They are still the way that people are looking at you, to see whether you can just hold a normal conversation as well. So, yeah, as much as you can do to increase your confidence in that kind of way is a great thing. Just the other thing I wanted to add too is that people who I find who really succeed in getting a job fast are people that really do more than just react. So we had one person, I think a couple of years ago, Esther, you came on our live stream.
yes.
Yeah, well, we had a community of people in that were doing exactly what the guys here are doing in the chat, but they started to reach out to each other and get to know each other from being in the chat. There was an instant network that they had. So there's lots of things like this that people can get involved in. But one person really stood out to me, and his name was Amit, and he used to come in on our live stream, and then he decided to set one up of his own. So he was in India during lockdown, wanting to come to Australia, couldn't get here, but his profession was I think it's project management. And about sharing stories to get to know, develop the best result, basically. So he started his own live stream and started interviewing people in his network in Australia on the live stream. And, he had a job before he got here. Wow. So I know that's maybe a little bit of an extreme example for a lot of people, but the more that you can be proactive, that's how you do it. I mean, I've had Naish, who's the co-host of Career Care Package. He's so active in his Indian community here in Melbourne. Organising events for other people. Other people within the community. So really flying the flag. And again, he's known. So as much as you can do that, because not a lot of us, the other thing about coming to a new country is if you're coming here, you're clearly proactive, you've clearly got confidence, you've clearly got skills. It puts you in terms of professional skills, I think that puts you in the top 10 to 15% already. And a lot of people here aren't that active in their own careers. They're waiting for other people to organise. So if you can take it that little step further, I think,
it's a great advantage.
Yeah. And of course it's not for everyone, but just to kind of think about those things as well.
No, that's a great idea. The other thing I wanted to mention when we talked about doing something fun before the interview to not get yourself locked into the anxiety and the nerves is breathing as well, because a lot of people forget to breathe, and it's okay to speak more slowly, not real slowly, but it's okay to speak more slowly in an interview and take a pause and breathe and then take another pause. Because all they're going to do is notice that you're speaking clearly and you're actually in control and have confidence. And when we get nervous, we tend to speak much more quickly. That's just our nervous system does that to us. So while people are practicing what answers to some of the questions, practice also doing that phrasing thing where you go, well, when I was living in wherever, let's say Sydney, even though it's somewhere else in the world, let's say, when I was living in Sydney and I was working for X company as a project manager, these are the things that, this is what we did when this situation came up. So you see, I'm pausing between each chunk of information there, rather than when I was in Sydney, this is what I do. No, it's okay to pause. It's okay to be a bit slower, because English is slower anyway, so it's all right. It's a slower rhythm than a lot of other languages. And then when you pause, you breathe. And if you breathe from your abdomen, then you actually relax your muscles and you can stay listening to the interviewers and sort of reacting or relating to what they're saying more, rather than going, oh, I have to talk about this or whatever it is. So, yeah, don't forget that you can pause and breathe and take your time and, you know, get the rhythm.
That's fantastic tip, because also if you're monotone, you're quick.
Yes.
We understand things by the pause. Like when you pause, you know something good's coming, or you're waiting for something good. You can own that space a little bit, but the breathing, yeah, for sure. You know, it just slows you down and keeps you grounded and keeps you in the moment. So yeah.
So adds to the confidence as well. Okay, how are we going for time? I'm just having a little look. Anyone else asking anything else? I think that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, that's been really good. I hope people have gotten a lot of practical tips. I know I learnt some things from you, so that was really great. And if people are having difficulty, please approach Karalyn, because she's got so many years of experience, and, you know, she can sort of support you all the way through, and she's had great success getting people jobs in a quicker time than just sort of sitting around the whole year trying to get yourself a job, if you see what I mean, and give you the skills. So that's great. Again, where should they contact you once more?
So Career Care Package is my YouTube channel, or it's probably easiest to find me on the Interview IQ website, so interviewiq.com.au.
Yeah, so I've got Interview IQ written there. So
if you Google
.com.au. Yeah, excellent.
So happy to answer any questions, and thanks so much for having me, Esther. It's been fantastic. It's weird to be on the other side. I'm normally the interviewer on these.
I know. And I thought, yes, for me it's different too. But I'm so pleased. Thank you very much for coming along. I've really enjoyed it. And bye for now, and I'll speak to you another time. Fantastic.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Where